If you clicked on this video, you are probably thinking about traveling to Patagonia, and I am here to confirm that it needs to be moved to the top of your bucket list as soon as possible. You need to go. It was the best trip of my entire life. If you're new here, my name's Allie. I live in Boston, 26 years old, and I post travel content and just daily vlogs. I love taking pictures and videos and just keeping track of life through a camera. Today we're going to be talking about my Patagonia trip, and quick disclaimer, I did not do like any of the planning for this. My friend and I usually plan our trips together, and she took full reins of this. It was a really hard trip to plan, and she had to book through a lot of different websites, which I can talk about too as much as I know, but mostly I'll be going over our itinerary and everything we did and just talking about it because I'll take any opportunity I can to talk about Patagonia. For background, we pick a national park to go to every year, and we picked Patagonia in January of 2023 and booked it for November. So we booked it pretty far out. We probably booked it in like February and March, and things were booking fast. So we did meet a couple people on the trail who had booked it a couple weeks before they went, so I'm guessing they just got in on the cancellations and stuff, but I would recommend booking very far in advance for a trip like this. So we flew into Santiago and we stayed a night there, and it was amazing. I love Santiago. I want to go back. We didn't see nearly enough of it. We really just ate a bunch of incredible food and then got to bed early because we had a 5 a.m. flight from Santiago to Puerto Natales, which was a 3.5 or 4 hour flight. Once we flew to Puerto Natales, which expect turbulence on that flight, I guess the person who worked at Wonderland Cafe was telling us there's always turbulence. So once we got to Puerto Natales, we really, again, just walked around town. There were a lot of stray dogs, which one of our friends was extremely scared of. Pretty entertaining. They were scary. We rented hiking poles for the next day, and then we just packed up our bags and ate dinner there. We took the bus from Puerto Natales to the entrance of Torres del Paine National Park. We got off at the entrance to get tickets to the ferry, so that when we got to the ferry we could just get on. The ferry was packed. We were like just body to body. Everyone took off their backpacks and they stored them in a different area. And this is the first part where I was like, where in the world am I? This is the coolest thing I've ever done. It felt like, I don't know why I'm describing it this way, but it felt like we were in Jurassic Park. Just this like icy blue lake in front of you and these snow-capped mountains, and you're just like, what am I embarking on right now? It was just the most surreal feeling. It was freezing. We all had like our buffs up, our hats on, and our winter coats. And this was the beginning of their summer, but it wasn't yet that warm, which we thought was the perfect temperature because we were never like too hot or too cold while we were hiking. We got off the ferry and we started our first day of hiking, which was like just under 7 miles. So right when you get off the ferry, you see the first huge refugio. It gives like ski resort vibes. It's this big like wood place that all these people are staying in, and then there's a bunch of tents outside, like these set up tents that you can rent that instead of renting a room. We weren't staying in here the first night, we were staying in the second night since we did the W trek. So we went up and we started our first hike. This first hike day was around 7 miles. It was the most surreal experience ever. Like everywhere we looked was a different scenic point. Like we saw icebergs, we saw green fields, we saw mountains, we saw waterfalls. It was just, I felt like I was in a movie. It was crazy. Oh my gosh, just thinking about it makes me want to go back. But the hiking was pretty easy, some uphill, some downhill. I fell down a waterfall on the first day naturally and decided I wasn't going to use the hiking poles because I swear that's what made me fall. Anyways, we got to our first refugio and we had our like dining hall meal there, which we bought the meals in advance, and you should also get the box lunches. Some of them were good, some of them were, you know, food that you had to get down because you were hungry. But the dinners were always really good. They always had like a protein option, a starch, some veggies, and then desserts. The desserts were really fun to try. And so we would just load up on food and then go to our room, which the whole place was heated by fire. So it was so nice. We would sit by the fire and warm up and then go to our rooms, which weren't that cold. I mean, we all slept in the same outfit every night, which was like a fleece and pants. So we looked crazy. I'll attach a picture here. We got up the next day super early in the morning and we were going to our activity that we booked on Glacier Gray, which we basically just hiked along a glacier in spikes for like 5 hours, and it was, I can't tell you how cool it was. There no words can describe it. I'll put in some pictures and videos here, but basically we got to drink the water. It's the best water I've ever tasted in my life. And we had these ice picks and we went through this like cave, and it was just so cool. So then we got back from our glacier hike, packed up our big packs because we didn't have to bring our big packs on the glacier hike since it was just boating out to the glacier and back. So once we got back, we had to pack our backpacks, get strapped back on, and then do the hike back down to the refugio that we saw when we first got off the ferry, and we stayed there. It's hard to pick a favorite. All the refugios were so special in different ways, but this one was huge. It was so cool because Carrie and I would sit down in the lobby at night, and not that we made it past like 9:30 p.m. any night, but the sun was out at 9 p.m. I'll attach a picture here because it was absolutely crazy, and we would just journal and sit by the fire with all these cool people that we hadn't met, and it was completely off the grid, which was one of the coolest parts because we couldn't contact anyone, no one could contact us, and we just had to live in the moment. And it was the most refreshing experience ever. I wish I could find another time to do that. It's just so hard when everyone's connected except for you, so it was really nice to be in an environment where no one was connected together. That night we sat with our friends who we had made along the trail, such nice guys that were from the Netherlands and from Canada. We would have dinner with them every night, and then we got up the next day, and this was the beginning of our 18-mile hike day. It was a long day. It was one of the coolest days, one of the hardest days, one of the most mentally challenging things I've done towards the end. So the first couple miles of the hike, the vibes were pretty high, really windy, kind of like very slight hills. We walked through this boardwalk where kind of everything was burnt down around it because someone had set their toilet paper on fire in the park, and that was crazy to see. And then we hiked to the Italiano hut, which have like areas to leave your bags. So we ditched our heavy packs and then did a hike up to the French Valley, which was hard. It was not that many miles to get up, but it was just, we were going like this. And we were tired. I mean, we had already hiked like 8 miles at that point. Just going completely uphill for a majority of it. We were kind of covered in the woods, so it was a little discouraging not having like the crazy views like we had been used to the past few days to keep us going. But we finally got to the top. We were freezing. It was snowing at the top, which was crazy because we were in like long sleeves when we started at the bottom. And we sat up there, ate our lunches, and then we're like, we gotta get back down. We finally got our heavy packs back. I knew we had like a couple miles to go until we got to our third refugio we were staying in, which was Los Cuernos, which maybe that was my favorite. The last couple miles to get to Los Cuernos were some of the most challenging. We were grunting, we were just continuing each other to push. We were constantly just yelling motivational things or sounds to try and get us through it. At one point we were catching up to people who we had met just to hear their gossip so that it could keep us going in complete silence. We were desperate, but the views towards the end were just absolutely insane, and we had a mountain cabin to look forward to, which was the perfect thing that we booked after such a hard day of hiking. At this particular refugio, you can either book the normal like hostel-ish type of rooms where you're staying with other people, or you can book mountain cabins, and we booked a mountain cabin for that night because the refugio regular rooms were initially sold out, and we were so happy we splurged on that because they had towels for us in the room, which we had been using our microfiber towels that we had brought ourselves. So we were so happy to have towels, and the view was actually insane. Like, this was the most is my life a movie situation that we had been in the whole time so far. So we're so tired. We had hiked 18 miles. We're all delirious. We get into our cabins, we take warm showers, and then we go to dinner. Dinner was such like a community vibe. We ate like a can of Pringles every day because they were available in all the refugios. So we got our can of Pringles. We're all like housing them down, waiting for dinner. And then dinner comes, like, again, no one's on their phones. We're all just having dinner together with these random people from different parts of the world. We bring our key over to the like receptionist at the refugio, and they take the key and they go light a fire in our mountain cabin. And so we go back, and our room has just a fire blazing that kept us warm all night. It was the most peaceful sleep I've ever had. I dream about it. Like, falling asleep that night, there was a skylight window, And obviously we were falling asleep while the sun was still up because it stayed up until like, I want to say 10 p.m. And we're falling asleep and I'm just looking out the window like, what is my life? This is just so cool. I'm so lucky. Oh my gosh. And so we got up the next morning, we saw a rainbow, which was unreal. I have to attach that picture here too. We had like an 8.5 mile hike day from Cuernos to Central. And this was one of my favorite hiking days. It was a bunch of green fields, just these windy paths with these beautiful mountains in the background. It just was like, I don't know if this is the right movie reference, but The Sound of Music. I felt like I was in The Sound of Music. And we were alone for a lot of it. I feel like we barely saw any other hikers, so it just felt like the four of us against the world. So that was just a really, really good day. We finally get to Central, and Central was probably the best accommodations. It was the best shower we had. It was so nice. It felt like we were literally living in luxury at that point. We played cards and we talked with the other people who we had become friends with. And then we had a really good dinner. That was probably my favorite dinner. And we sat in this room with like a bunch of beanbags and a fire, obviously. And we all just chatted with these people from around the world. And it was just an amazing night. And then the next day was the last hike, which was a 13-mile hike, and only Carrie made it up to that hike. I had gotten a really severe blister that I thought was turning into cellulitis, and Carrie was like, I just want to do it. So she went out with the guys that we had met, and they left at 3 in the morning. They saw this like completely no light pollution sky with stars. The picture was amazing. And they hiked up to the towers, which is like one of the main attractions in Torres del Paine. So we got to see pictures of it. I'm definitely still sad that I didn't do it, but I literally thought I was gonna have to get my foot amputated, so I would rather have a foot than see the towers. Yeah, we just walked around the gift shop, got a couple things there, and then got on the bus to go back to Puerto Natales and stay at the same bed and breakfast that we had stayed in before. This tiny little bed and breakfast felt like we were returning to heaven based on, you know, just like the clothes we had been in, and we had suitcases there with obviously other clothes to change into. So it was so luxurious. That first shower there, washing our hair, getting into clean clothes, and just getting into a warm bed. It felt so good. We stayed the night there, and then we took a flight back to Santiago the next day, and we stayed in the hotel that we had stayed at in Santiago the first time, which was great. It had a pool, and we just hung out the whole next day at the pool, just completely relaxing. We went to a steakhouse and got a dinner that was like ridiculously affordable for what we got, and it was just such a good way to end the trip. And then we flew out from Santiago that night, and then we've been depressed ever since because we're here and not there. It was just like, I can't describe how unique of an experience it was. Like, I've been to like 5 or 6 national parks and nothing was like this. It just was like a completely isolated vacation where you're like pushing your body to its limits. You're meeting all these new people. You're like learning about yourself while you're learning about them. It's just, it was the most amazing trip ever. In terms of packing, I actually have my backpack right here because I'm getting ready for my Grand Canyon trip, but this is what I brought. It is an Osprey 45 liter, and we had our whole lives in here for a couple days. I loved having this backpack. Like, this waist strap was everything. This was the lifeline. Like, if you didn't have this strapped, you probably couldn't go on, because we carried like, I think like around 25 pounds of stuff probably in it. So honestly, the pack, this is my first time hiking with a pack, and I did not expect it to be kind of as easy as it was. It never really bothered me all that much. And we had like I think I brought 3 pairs of pants, my refugio nighttime outfit, 3 tops, and then like underwear and socks. My biggest tips, I guess, for just a multi-day hike in general is change your freaking socks. Change your socks way more than you'd expect. Anytime you start feeling any sort of moisture, change your socks. Sit down, change your socks, no matter how much time it takes. Like, it is so worth it to save your feet. It's just, I can't emphasize this enough. You definitely are going to be taking layers on and off as you hike, just different parts. Like, as you get higher in altitude, you're going to be colder, obviously, and it's just nice to have the option to definitely bring comfy shoes to wear at the refugio. I ditched my slides after the first night because I wore them into the shower and they absorbed a lot of water, so they were super heavy and I didn't want them in my pack, and I regretted it living in the city, and I regretted it so much. I like wore Carrie's slides every time that I would wait for her to shower so I could wear her slides into the shower. Like, I needed them. Think of your most comfy outfit that you want to throw on at the end of a long day. That's what you need to pack, as long as it's somewhat lightweight. I brought a whole fleece and it fit. Get compression bags for your pack and then line your pack with a garbage bag in case it gets rainy or you don't want other things getting into it. It actually never rained for us, which was crazy luck. It drizzled maybe one time, but it was like a rain shower. My camera overheated and I had to change spots, but back to the tips. Another tip is 100% do the glacier hike. It is worth every penny. I think it cost us around $180 and it's the coolest experience you'll ever have. Get up early and hike while the trails aren't crowded. It's so nice just being alone out there for a couple hours, and the sun comes up early enough to do that. So just get out there early. It's so worth it, I promise. Talk to people in the refugios. It is so fun to just like meet these people from all different walks of life and see why they're traveling there. If this is their first trip like this, just like we're still connected to all the people who we met out there. Somehow, which I think just means we weren't drinking enough water, we never had to go to the bathroom in the woods. I used a bathroom every single time I went to the bathroom, which was really nice, even on the longer hikes. I need waterproof shoes. My favorite hiking shoes aren't waterproof, so I bought new hiking shoes a couple weeks before. I mean, just saying that, you know, it's a dumb idea. It was a terrible idea. My feet punished me and I missed the last day because of it. So make sure you get waterproof hiking boots, break them in on a couple hikes, and then wear them. We actually had chargers in all of the refugios. It depends on what kind of room you book, and obviously if you're staying in tents, you will have to go inside and use like the central chargers that people are charging up at. But we didn't charge our phones once because we were only taking pictures on them and they were on airplane mode, so we didn't really have to. But it was nice to be able to charge my camera battery every day. Definitely bring a water filter. We used that almost every time we were filling up our water in the cafeterias, just because we didn't want to risk getting a stomach ache or anything. So we would filter our water with the Sawyer squeeze and just put it into our bottles. Be prepared to be a little dehydrated. You obviously need to be drinking enough water, but at some points I was sparing my water because it's kind of a toss-up of whether you want to carry a lot of water and have your pack be heavy or carry a moderate amount and be a little bit dehydrated. In terms of prices, we paid around $700 for our flight round trip from Boston to Santiago. Our flights from Santiago to Puerto Natales were around $150 round trip. This is the most expensive part. Patagonia is not that cheap of a trip, even though you are kind of camping and staying in the woods. The refugios for each person total ended up being $1,100. So if you camp, it's going to be a lot cheaper, but I loved being in the refugios, and I think if you're gonna make this long trip, you should pay the price and stay in them, unless you're a camper. No shame to the campers. And the glacier walk, the excursion we did, it was $170. If you have any questions, I probably can't answer them. I'm just kidding. If you have any questions on planning your Patagonia trip, I would love to share more. I could talk about it all freaking day. Like, I can't wait to go back already. I really want to do the O trek one day, which is the longer version of the W trek that we did with higher altitude and everything. If you made it to the end of this, yes, you should start booking your trip to Patagonia. It will be the best trip of your life. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more travel content, more national park content, and just days of my life vlogs. Bye.